Welcome to the Writing Community Chat Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's Writing Community Chat Show. It is Wednesday, and we're very excited to bring you another great guest. And as we mentioned before, if you've been following on Twitter or listening to recent shows, we continually get fantastic guests, and we just feel very blessed with guests, as we said. Chris Hooley is going to be with us very shortly, and he is having technical issues, which is a rare thing these days, but it's good to know that they still happen, and it keeps us very much grounded. Hello to you, Linda. Nice to see you on the chat, and I hope that you guys are going to engage with each other as always, because it gives us great entertainment to see you guys in the chat and with all the banter that comes up along with it. So there's a few things to note before we do start. First of all, this fantastic beer glass is now available from the store, the Teespring store, and it is wonderful, and I'm very pleased with that, as is, of course, all our amazing clothing. But Hooley is slacking. He is very much slacking. And he came in late as well, so give him some abuse for that. But yeah, there's a lot of things moving forward, and we're very happy with the progress of the show. And a lot of it's down to you guys and your support that you keep giving us. So thank you so much for that. And, you know, our YouTube's growing alongside our podcast as well. And it's all down to you guys. So thank you. We've got a great show on for you tonight, and we're going to get into that very shortly. So if I can find one, and I know Chris set this up, and again, he's not here. So a beer token book promotion always starts the show, and there just seems to be a little bit of a statement there. So I'm not going to read that out until he turns up. What I will do is get our guest on, and we will start the show without him, and hopefully he'll join in. But guys, please be engaged. Please enjoy the show, and any comments, send them in. So today's guest, Grazia, calling her the most exciting new voice of 2021, which is a fantastic statement. And the debut novel, Tall Bones, has been greatly received by the likes of Paula Hawkins, Jane Harper, and S.J. Watson. It's been called Irresistible, a compelling and a nuanced psychological thriller, suffused with a small town prejudice and dark family secrets. And that is a review from Paula Hawkins, who wrote The Girl on the Train. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Anna Bailey. Hello.
Hi, it's really lovely to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. Honestly, it's a great pleasure that you would join us, and I hope all is well. We did mention just before you came on air that you know, we've both been kind of busy in life, and we actually rescheduled this show from Monday, which was a bit of a mix-up on both parts there. So it's great. No, not at all. So it's great to get you on, and here we go. And we hope that you're well, and welcome to the show, Chris.
Thank you.
I completely messed up the start of that because you had set the show up and there was a beer token promotion, which I couldn't find. So I apologize.
Do you want me to do it now, or have you already started?
You're more than welcome to.
Go
it's a privilege to have Anna sit in on this part of the show. No pressure.
Yeah, so the beer token book promotion is somebody that we have had on the show very recently. and he spent a long time with us, so I thought I would promote his book. So it's Will Carver, and it is The Beresford, and it says everything stays the same for the tenants of the Beresford, a grand old apartment building just outside the city, until the doorbell rings. And I'm not going to tell you any more than that because you should go and find out for yourself. But I am going to do this section where I look, and I think you've deleted it.
Yeah. Do you know what I did?
I
apologise.
cannot believe that.
You know what? Wait there. I will find it. I just saw that and thought that was the other week. So I just
You
deleted
proper set me up to fail there. Anyway, I've got another book cover in front of me, and it's this one.
it. Yeah.
Look at that, like a true professional. Look at that. Absolutely brilliant book cover as well. And that is obviously the lovely Anna's book. So we'll get rid of this. I don't know why my voice just decided to break mid.
Anna's book.
Yeah, exactly. Mid-show, but Anna, I don't know how much we talked about your book and everything, but
We haven't yet, Chris.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah, perfect little
Yep.
timing. Seeing as we haven't, and we'll let Agate find the Beer Token book cover, can you tell us a little bit about Tall Bones?
So Tall Bones is my debut novel, and the Tall Bones themselves are this sort of stone circle on the edge of this remote town in Colorado, where the local kids sort of go there to drink beer and blow off steam and just kind of generally escape their really oppressive hometown. And one of them, Emma, sees her best friend Abigail disappear into the woods around the Tall Bones. And the rest of the book follows Emma's really desperate search to try and find this friend that she loves so much. And as she does so, she kind of unearths the town's secrets, this violence and prejudice and the really oppressive role of religion. And in the end, no one's really left unscathed by this mystery.
Ooh, that does sound fantastic. Before we dig into the depths of that story and really figure out how that was constructed and put together and what may be coming up next, can we jump back in time very slightly and find out why writing became something in your life and why it was suddenly an urge to write this book? Where did it come from?
So I've always, I mean, people always say that, don't they? I've always really loved really loved writing. My family's always been very creative, and it was always something they really encouraged, which I was really lucky about. And I did creative writing at university, which was great. I did creative writing at Bath Spa, and I always wanted to be a writer, but my university was very good at being quite candid about the reality of that happening or not happening for people. And so I thought I would sort of try and go in more like journalistic direction. And I ended up moving to the States to try and pursue journalism there, which didn't work out. And I ended up working at a Starbucks. And I think you get some of the most interesting, you get a fascinating look at human beings working in customer service.
Definitely.
You certainly do. I'm really interested when you mentioned that when you're in university and wanted to be a writer and you had these aspirations and dreams, but you were almost put off. Talk to us about that. And why was that why was that even a thing? I mean, surely it should be encouraged as opposed to, your dreams put down.
I think it's not so much that they try to put people down. It's just that they're trying to be honest with people and make sure that they understand it's not like this sort of ticket to fame and fortune, which you end up doing. Because I then did another writing course after university, and you still sort of, whenever you do these courses, you do always find at least one person who sort of thinks they'll get published and they'll be huge, and that will be the end of all their problems. And they don't seem to understand necessarily that they have to write a book somewhere along the way.
I read on Reddit this week that someone actually, the question they posted was, they're looking at how much money do they need to actually basically give up work and become a writer, and how many books they need and stuff. And it was almost a full-gun conclusion that it doesn't matter what the story was, and they hadn't written that yet. They were committed to the fact that they were just going to be a writer. And my mind was blown, and that people think this way.
Yeah, it's it's quite sad as well, because I feel it takes those kind of people, they get into these courses and things, and they bring that kind of attitude, and I feel like it slows it down for everybody else, because you always have to, the tutor always has to be making accommodations for somebody, and it sort of destroys the like creative momentum a little, I think.
So Anna, you said obviously you were involved in creative writing at university, and then you went to America to be a journalist. So you're clearly always in love with some form of writing. So obviously you said you went to America and ended up in a Starbucks. So how did it go from that to writing this novel and then getting it published?
Well, I think part of why I went to the US was really that I was looking for kind of, I was there to pursue journalism, but I was also looking for space to kind of discover myself, I think. I'd been struggling a lot with my sexuality when I was living in the UK, and America definitely had a lot of space, but unfortunately, just as I arrived, it suddenly was the Trump administration, and then I was kind of stuck there, having like blown all my savings to get out there. And it took a long time to earn that back in a Starbucks. But
it must have taken a lot of courage to think, this isn't kind of working in the UK. I'm just going to, go to another place and try to start fresh there. I mean, how did you approach that in the way that, did you have a system there already, or did you kind of just believe that you would be able to use your talents to kind of make it there in the first place?
I mean, first and foremost, I was 21, so I was ridiculous. Like I was you don't always think these things through at that point in life. But I did know people in the US that I could stay with and things like that, and I had a lot of hope that it would work out for me and everything. But that's just the luck of the draw. And in the end, I think everything worked out for the best. I was looking for space there, and I definitely had that. I lived in Texas, and then I lived in Colorado, and both of these places have these really huge, evocative landscapes, and they were massively inspiring. Certainly, Colorado, where Tall Bones is set, was such an inspiration to me. But the thing about these sort of like really huge spaces, that they also emphasize kind of how small and isolated the communities are. And there's a lot of very like close-minded thinking, and you do feel really cut off from the world. And I think that is really what inspired this novel.
Interesting.
Wow. That is really interesting.
Just going to make a point on the fact that you said, you kind of had these expectations and it didn't quite pan out. But like, we've had authors on this show that have been there and done it for a long time, and they often say that success is built on failure as opposed to wins. It's having those failures and realizing what kind of can happen and does happen and doesn't happen that builds these characters and the experience. So it sometimes is often a good thing that these things happen.
No, absolutely.
It seems that your life experience of going to America and experiencing America in that form has actually obviously helped you write this book.
Yeah, definitely.
Everything you've talked about obviously is directly in the book. So do you think that is something that you kind of just went with it when you actually started writing it? Did you already have an idea for a similar sort of story, but then Colorado became the perfect place when you were living there? Or did the story sort of form organically whilst you were there?
That's a really good question. It's sort of a mixture of things. I'd written a short story when I was at university called Tall Bones, about a woman whose daughter went missing, which is, that's what happens in this novel. And it was about this woman and her two children that were left behind, and sort of the relationship that the three of them had in the wake of this other child going missing. And I was really interested in the sort of, and I got a really awful grade for it, and sort of threw it away to the back of the pile of things that I wasn't looking at anymore. But I did like those characters, and I sort of hoped that I would be able to do something else with them at some point. And so when I was when I came back from the States, I had all these ideas that I wanted to write something set in a small town in Colorado, and I felt like this was a good way to bring that into that, was maybe finally a medium to use those characters in that story.
How did it feel from going from someone who was writing and then having their work graded in an academic setting to someone who was writing with the aim of being published?
I think at the time I didn't really envisage it as something that would be published, and because I wrote this novel during I was doing the Curtis Brown creative novel writing course, which was brilliant, and that really motivated me to finish it. But I wasn't really thinking about even kind of showing it to an agent. Like my mum really encouraged me to do that, and that was brilliant, and I'm so glad that I did. But it was quite because I had quite a rough time in the States, being gay and being in Donald Trump's America, and so when I came back, it was mostly like I was quite angry, and I used the book to kind of work through a lot of stuff. It's not an autobiographical book by any means whatsoever, but there's a lot of my feelings about certain issues definitely kind of make their way into that. I think my viewpoint on America is definitely woven into the novel. And so I think for me, it was a very personal experience writing it. And I didn't necessarily think about showing that to anyone besides my mum. And it was really lovely, and read about like 50 drafts of it.
Wow. Let's talk about that process then, where you're, you kind of had this story that was an expression of your sort of experiences and thoughts and feelings, and you created this story out of that. And your mother basically said, look, send this in. Did you have an idea and an impression of how to do that, or was the process a learning curve for you, and how did that go?
So the great thing about the Curtis Brown course is that I'm going to sound like I'm like selling it for them.
No, there's a lot of people that won't know what that means. So yeah, by all means.
Yeah, so it was a 6-month creative writing course with Curtis Brown, which is a huge London agency, and they offer you the chance at the end to pitch a novel to one of their agents, which I was kind of like, that's never going to happen for me, so what's the point? But my mum was really, really encouraging, and it did really motivate me to finish my manuscript. And so it was, I don't know if I would have ever gotten it looked at if I hadn't had that opportunity, because it is such a hard world to break into. So I feel really, really lucky that I had that. And I was just very fortunate that my agent liked it and wanted to pick it up.
Yeah, and it's something that's had a lot of great feedback already. I mean, Chris mentioned before that, the reviews it's had from people in the game already, very established in the writing world. How did that make you feel as someone who clearly didn't quite believe in their work at the time, that may, go as far as it possibly has? How did that make you feel?
It's amazing. There's also, I mean, it's incredible to get this kind of feedback from anybody, but like authors that I've loved reading, like Paula Hawkins and S.J. Watson and Jane Harper and Lucy Atkins, like it's just like indescribable to be like, oh, I have your book on my bookshelf and you have my book on your bookshelf, and that's so surreal.
I mean, do you remember the first time? I know when when I first had my very first review, it didn't matter who it was from. I'm scanning every single word of it. Did you remember the first time you got one of these established authors' reviews, and kind of how you found out?
I'm trying to think I did get the review that Paula Hawkins gave me was pretty early on, and I do remember being absolutely just like speechless about that, and like getting really excited and jumping up and down with my girlfriend about like pretty much every review that came in. It's just, I could never have imagined that, like, even, I think even at the time when I wasn't thinking about really sending it off, there's always a little part of you that's like, oh, but what if this became, a book, or what if this became like a Netflix series or something? And like, it's probably never going to happen, but there's a little part of you that's like always like, you never know. And it's really amazing to think like people that I admire so much also liked this book.
I mean, would you, if it was picked up, and we talked about this a lot on the show with various people, but if your book was optioned and they said, okay, have you got an idea for a cast or some main characters? Would you have anyone in mind you really want to pitch for the story?
God, no. Like, I'm trying to be like so realistic about it and like not get my hopes up at all. So I just like try not to think about it at all. But David Fincher, if you're listening,
yeah, definitely. So Annie, like, obviously you talked about it coming from your own experiences of being in America and then getting home and then reflecting on your time in America, and religion plays quite a big part in this novel. Is that because when you sat down to write it, well, you tell us why that is the case. My thought process is it because religion played a big part in your experience in America and the experiences you had with people's faiths and beliefs, or is it because you could use that as a platform to express what you were trying to say?
I think, yeah, it was something that definitely played quite a big role in my life over there. Like, I'm not a religious person. Obviously, I don't have any problem with anyone who is, but it's a very hardcore brand of American Christianity that it was not friendly to me. And I do remember coming back from that. When you're surrounded by that kind of hateful rhetoric all the time, it's really hard not to internalize it. And I do remember coming back from that feeling really angry that I'd been made to sort of feel that way about myself and to dislike myself so much. And so it was important for me to write a story about marginalized people who were allowed to feel victorious in some sense at the end, who were allowed to feel proud of themselves.
I was smiling when you were speaking about that, not for anything to do with what you were saying, because of the sirens in the background.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Oh, okay, that's right. It's normally Chris because he's from Manchester, and there's always sirens in the background.
No, there's always. I live like right by the main road, so there's always sirens.
Where are you from? Because I've not heard that sort of siren before. What was that?
Oh, I'm in France, so it's a French siren.
Makes sense.
French siren, there was a difference. It had a bit of a French twang to it,
did.
Chris, if you were listening.
I mean, Ross is in the chat and he said, good question, especially for Hooli just now. And he was joking. But like he hasn't told us about these special sirens in France. So he's in France too.
Bonjour.
Yeah.
Bonsoir.
I was going to say, is it nighttime?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, the question I've got now is that you've had this book and it's, already hitting the kind of heights you maybe didn't expect, and it's kind of going well. Have you got a plan for what happens next, or is there something in place, or you just kind of thinking, okay, just enjoy this for what it is right now?
I'm working on my second book at the moment, actually, which is an amazing thing to be able to say, and that's, I think, due to come out start of 2023. So yeah, that's what's on the cards, and I've also got plans for a third one as well. So it's all coming along. Yeah.
Nice.
Ross has said there's one policeman for 100,000 where I am. Pretty sure he has a siren, a wind-up one. Love the fact he just runs around winding it up.
That feels very Dad's Army.
Yeah, I mean, when you said about you'd written, you mentioned, I don't know how much of this was real or a joke. You said 50 odd drafts your mother had read. What is your writing process like, and how much do you redraft, and is that why, 2023 perhaps is quite a long time in some people's minds for a book release? Have you got a big process?
With that one, actually, with this second book, I've had quite a slow going. It's been quite slow with it. I think the pandemic was not inducive to creativity, shall we say. I did find it quite a struggle to write at the time. So my deadline got pushed back, which I'm very grateful to my publishers if they're listening. That was brilliant to be able to have some more time to work on it. But I have lost count of the number of redrafts I did of that novel. It's fine now. It's all going. Is it
kind of a structured process, or are you kind of a pantser? How does that work?
I think so. They were quite at university. It was quite sort of this is the structure of how you write a novel, and this is how you do it and everything. And I do find that helpful to have a structure to work with, and to sort of I do like to have a plan for things, but I don't always follow it, and I think that's important. I think it's important to just kind of go where your characters want to go. I feel like it's a little bit like you can't, it's like putting information into an algorithm and then letting it go where it wants. And I think you get to know your characters, and you get to know what they want to do, and then they just kind of decide what they want for the rest of the story.
So Anna, you said obviously you wrote Tall Bones largely based on how you were feeling and your experiences. So obviously that was quite raw.
I'm sorry, that's Sirens going back.
It's Ross.
I was just going to
Ross
ignore
is
it.
running
It's fine. Yeah. Obviously, that experience for you when you got back and you were reflecting from your time in America was quite raw for you when you started writing Tall Bones, which has obviously produced some brilliant writing as a result. So how did you go from that, which was, almost a cathartic experience, to then writing book 2, which, I mean, obviously you can shed some light on this, whether that was the case. Is that another sort of passion project that you've got, or are you approaching this one in a very different way?
I think so. I think the issue actually that I really had with book 2 before was that I was kind of trying to write something that was very detached from the way that I felt, and just trying to write sort of a thriller that was very separate from me. And I found it a lot harder to get into, and found it harder to care about the characters and everything. And so this book that is now my book 2 is also set in the States, and is also another sort of small town mystery that examines more kind of aspects of that different sort of stuff than comes up in Tall Bones. But I find that setting really fascinating. I think there's sort of in a small town, there's always kind of that daily battle to keep parts of yourself private, because everybody wants to know everything about everyone. And I think that sort of push and pull between like public and secrecy just makes such a great environment for crime stories.
Yeah.
It's very interesting. I mean, a lot of towns in the UK, as you quite mentioned, in these little towns in America are quite, secluded, whereas people are literally on top of each other in a lot of areas in the UK. So it's hard to imagine that or get that impression as a writer in the UK if you haven't experienced it. When you're writing this story in the second your book, or maybe a third, do you have any more plans to, I guess, travel and experience that firsthand, to use that in your work?
Yeah, I mean, once post-pandemic, I would love to travel again for sure. I think I would like to go back to the US. I'd like to go with my girlfriend, and for us to kind of experience that, and to have new experiences that are more positive, and that kind of can erase the way I felt about stuff before, I think. But yeah, no, I would love to go. And I think it's really important to go to a place that you're writing about. I think you have to really open yourself up to it. And there's so much that you miss when you're not there, and the way that the air smells, and the color of the sky and things like that.
Would you ever consider changing it up and having a new destination?
Yeah, I mean, originally book 2, I wanted to set in the far north. I was going to go to Norway, and I was really excited about that. And then COVID happened, and that kind of threw everything off. And I was trying to write it like looking at like Google Maps pictures, and I was like, this isn't the same.
You should come to Indiana, Leith says. It's a great state. So there's one to tick off the list.
Nice, I'll see you there.
Yeah.
So Anna, I'm interested, what originally attracted you not just to America, but why did you decide to go to Texas and then Colorado? Like, what was the thought process in there?
With Texas, it just happened that like that's where I knew people, so that's where I had somewhere to stay and things like that. And Texas is such an interesting place. Like, I think it's everything that you think it's going to be. It is like cowboys and Jesus and big skies and huge huge landscapes. And I honestly don't think that I could have grown up there. I think that would have made me insane. But I think it's a fascinating place, and I'm really glad that I got to spend some time there. And it's very beautiful in its own way. And that's where my second book is set. And I'm really interested in the way that it can shape characters. And I think that actually that has helped me come to terms with some of my own experiences there, because I'm kind of realizing this is why people would behave like that if they'd grown up in a space like this.
Wow. I mean, did you work in a Starbucks in Texas?
No, I worked in Starbucks in Colorado, which was probably a nicer experience.
Yeah. I imagined this Starbucks then that was like an old Western. So they just come through the doors and then they order.
Swinging doors.
And then you just slide it along. Like, what would a cowboy's name be on a Starbucks cup? Because you have to write it down. Like,
But I have no idea.
Rex. Rex would be a great one.
We got some fun names.
Just tip the hat on the way out, yeah.
Yeah, we don't
wish.
slide the drinks
Full on
down, you have to
stereotype there,
lasso it.
Can you offend any more people? I don't know.
No, I mean, these are stereotypes, obviously, from films, but that's why I referenced, films in general. Westerns, cowboy films.
Okay. What we're gonna do
on
is-
that, Chris, no, I did have a question.
Oh, okay.
My question was, what's the strangest name you've ever written on a Starbucks cup?
Oh, I wasn't allowed to write the names on the Starbucks cups. I was just the person at the drive-through window that took people's orders and got them wrong. That was me.
Yeah.
Do you have a strangest customer experience? Like, do you have like a really funny story from the drive-through?
I tell you what, my best customer was a coyote that ran through the drive-through at 4 a.m.
Wow.
Wow.
He was so polite.
I mean, I love the way you say you got the orders wrong. It's like, hey, can I have a latte? He's like, an omelette for this guy, please. Like, what's that? I don't know.
I got up at like 3 a.m. for this job, so I was so tired whenever I got there. I was not really paying attention.
Was it always busy at that kind of graveyard shift? I
Yeah,
guess.
you'd get a lot of truckers coming through because it was right on the highway, like just like in the Rockies. So you would get a lot of people commuting through, and it was a really great place, like geographically to work. Like to look out of the window and see the Rocky Mountains was amazing. And truckers were fun. They would tell you fun stories about like wolves they've seen in Alaska and you know, like. Yeah, they were fun.
Yeah, I can imagine a trucker being great inspiration for a crime novel. A crime character, definitely. I mean, they travel all across the country, so...
I was just about to say that seems like a great setting for a horror.
Okay.
Yeah, isn't there a horror movie about truck?
Yeah, there's got to be. Service station. There's always someone running, a lady fleeing to a service station somewhere, and it's always
Texas
locked.
Chainsaw Massacre.
Well, there you go. Yeah. Absolutely. So what we're going to do is we're going to play a little video, a little advert, and then we're going to get into some staple questions. And once we've done those, we will get some questions from the audience. So guys, please start thinking about some questions and we will get into them very shortly. Hey guys, I'm here to talk about the amazing Pro Writing Aid and how I wish I had this software in my first 2 novels. I'm writing my 3rd at the moment and I really want to get it sent off to a real publisher. And this is going to make all the difference.
Yeah, if you want to get yourself agent ready, then this is definitely the tool for you. And it's got a really cool tool where you can compare your writing to somebody else's. So you can compare your work to Stephen King or Paul Hawkins. Yeah, really test yourself. Go to town. It's fun.
It is fantastic. And if you click on the link in the description of the podcast or the YouTube video, you will find a 20% discount affiliate link, which will help us out and help yourself out. So please check out Pro Writing Aid today. Chris, that cracked me up. I didn't mean to keep adding him in there. I don't know what's going on, and that was brilliant. So Pro Writing Aid,
as if you didn't know what was going on.
No, Pro Writing Aid has been amazing to help us book me and Chris out as writers, and kind of sponsored us with their software, which is absolutely amazing. Like we can't thank them enough, and it genuinely is incredible. And I mentioned before, my first book, it's had brilliant reviews. I never expected it. But the only criticisms it's had is down to some grammatical errors, which I didn't iron out or didn't take enough time on. And I believe if I had this software at the time, it wouldn't have happened. So, it just shows the power of it. And certainly look it out and check out the affiliate link that we've provided. Thank you.
Pretty sure you just said that in the advert, mate, but no one's listening to the advert because you're pissing about with me. Put me back on the screen.
I thought that was more entertaining, Chris, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I
Well,
don't know.
staple questions, Anna. One of the staple questions that we have on the show is if you could take any character from fiction and make them your own and do what you wanted with that character, what character would you choose and why?
Oh no! I wish I'd had some like preparation for this. I could have thought of a really cool answer. Mm.
Yeah, that's
I tell you
generally the
what,
reaction.
though.
Yeah.
I would have loved to have seen, and this is maybe cheating a little. I would have loved to see Rust Cole from True Detective in the NBC Hannibal TV series. I think that would have
Yes.
been definitely his vibe, and it probably
Oh,
would have
that
solved
is
that
a
crime faster for sure.
Good choice. I would like to see that. Yeah, definitely. Have you watched True Detective, Chris?
No.
Get on
You
it,
need to-
dude.
yeah, you need to rectify that,
Well,
definitely.
there are a lot of things that I need to watch. So how up the chart should this be?
Right at the top.
Pretty high.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. honestly.
Okay.
Although I know there's nothing like people telling you to watch something that puts you right off watching it.
No, generally,
true.
if there's a massive buzz about something, it takes me about 3 years to watch it. But
Yeah.
if it,
Watch the first season, maybe miss season 2, and then
Third
go
season
to
is
season
good.
3.
now
Yeah.
you're taking it away, Chris. I mean,
No, they're all different, mate. So they're all part of the same umbrella,
Oh,
but they're all
okay.
completely different cast every time.
I
So
like American Horror Story.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that sort of vibe.
Cool. So the next question would be, if you could change the ending to any story, whether it be fictional, TV, film, what ending would you change and why?
Well, just because I'm thinking about it, I think Will Graham and Hannibal should have kissed at the end of Hannibal. I think that would have been better ending.
That would have been very interesting.
I think it was going that way.
Yeah, it did get very heated at one point. But yeah, I love that. That was a great series. Have you seen that either, Chris?
I have seen bits of it. I haven't seen all. No,
Yeah, I mean they are two beautiful men as well. So
They are.
yeah,
I've got lots to catch up on. Clearly, yeah.
love it. And the final question is well, we have two questions really. That was a lie. The penultimate question is, it's a bit morbid, but we've just been talking about Hannibal, so it's fine.
Yeah, sorry.
If you had to resurrect an author that has died, on the condition that you could collaborate with them, write a novel with them, and bring it out, but then you had to kill them as a result of that condition, who would you resurrect and how would you kill them?
I would resurrect. Oh, that's a good one. I think maybe Daphne du Maurier, as a fellow Cornish woman. I think we'd hit it off as a fellow Cornish woman and a fellow lesbian. I feel like we would hit it off
Like it.
and have a great time collaborating on a novel. And then I feel like she would appreciate a good artistic death on the Cornish moors. I feel like she wouldn't be mad
nice.
about it,
I like that because often it's the poison, well, poison. It's always the answer, but an artistic death is a first.
Yeah, I feel like if she was sort of dramatically laid out in a stone circle on in Bodmin Moor, she'd be happy with that.
Sacrifice.
Yeah,
but
she'd be alright.
cold. So,
I'd give her a jumper.
yeah. Chris, I mean, we've asked this question a lot, but I've never asked you, at what point do you have to kill them? Is there a time limit on this, or do you have to do it like publication day? I mean,
Yeah, I think
That's sad.
publication day would be a good one. Yeah, publication
It's
day.
online.
As soon as it comes out. Yeah,
We're going to the launch right now, I promise.
yeah.
the
I
Bodmin
was
Moor?
thinking about this question myself before, and Roald Dahl was mentioned in the news recently, and I would probably pick him and then take him to his shed and then kill Roald Dahl in his shed.
Well, like
just
he's working and you come up behind him.
Yeah, it's a
Assume
straight big
his
axe.
personality.
Yeah,
Stress out like, I well done.
yeah. I mean, it would change the museum completely because his shed was left untouched. So if he was dead in it in the middle, with a
Would
great
it be
big
left
axe sticking out the
untouched
back of his head.
after he died in there?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. It'd make it more interesting, wouldn't it?
How did he die? Was there like, was he just about to release a new book? I mean,
Not sure.
should have been a
And then-
similar
Look at
story.
us all three.
Yeah. How did he die? The last question that we have, that's a staple question, is what advice would you give to any new writer out there who is looking to start writing? So what advice would you give them?
I would say, first and foremostly, everybody says that, but you just have to write something down, like, even if it's shit. Just that you can't finish something, you can't edit something, you can't publish something if you don't have anything to start with. And it's very often I write things, I have a real fear of blank pages, and very often I'll write stuff down and think it's absolute garbage, and then I come back and look at it the next day and it's perfectly fine or perfectly salvageable. And I think that if writing is something that you love and that you know it's what you want to do, like, it's not going to be terrible, because your passion will come through in it. And I think you have to believe in that.
Definitely. Don't procrastinate, just get it done. Yeah, a lot of people overthink it, don't they? Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to introduce a new writing community member. And this is someone that's recently followed us who have maybe not got many followers, and we give them a shout out and we send them a GIF. Anna, do you know what a GIF is?
I do know what a GIF is.
Yes, always a win. And when we send them a GIF, you can choose that GIF, and it can be any theme, and the people watching and listening will send them a GIF, right? And welcome them to the show. Or perhaps
how do I go about sending them a GIF?
You can do it whenever, or you don't have to. But
I can do it on your behalf.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll play the video. We'll find out who it is, and we'll get on to that. So that new family member today is Holly Marie Michael, and their Twitter, Chris, is at Holly H Michael UK. At the end, and she is an actor and a voiceover artist, and she has followed us, and she has 1,057 followers. So, Anna, what GIF are we going to send this person?
Am I finding her on Twitter and sending her a GIF?
No, you don't have to worry about that right now. All you have to do is give us the GIF you want to send. So it can be any theme at all, and we've had the most bizarre things you can imagine. So feel free to be expressive.
That is her. Holly?
It is.
Oh.
I don't know if I should be doing that.
What do you mean?
Putting their picture on YouTube on the show, just like, oh, is it her?
I'll have to fuzz the screen out.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it could, yeah.
I know what GIF. What can we send them?
Send us something with Kermit.
Kermit. Okay.
Yeah.
Kermit.
Is there a reason?
I'm just a big fan of Kermit GIFs. I feel like he's got a wide range.
He has indeed. Okay, so Chris, while you're doing that, Anna, is there an author that you're really into that you could recommend that the audience check out?
Yes, I am a huge fan of Elizabeth Strout. She's a US author. She writes she actually writes quite a lot of short stories now, but people might know her book Olive Kitteridge, which was really huge in both the US and the UK. And she's a very literary author, not a crime author, but I really, really love the way that she writes about ordinary people's lives. And I think that influenced my writing quite a lot, in the sense that it made me consider, sort of beyond the kind of plot and mystery of a crime novel, the way that these things affect ordinary people, and made me want to talk about that a lot more in my writing. And
that shows why, as a writer, it's important to read.
It certainly is.
Yeah, definitely.
I think it's going to be really difficult for people to do this, because there are so many good Kermit GIFs to send.
Right? He has the range.
Yeah, he really does. I'm struggling.
What have you gone for, Chris? Have you got one?
Yeah, I think I'm going to go the one where he falls off a log.
That's pretty classic,
yeah, classic Kermit. He looks a bit drunk, so yeah, I like that.
Hey, I like that one.
Send that one.
So, community question time, guys. Send your questions in for Anna, for us, for all of us as a whole. Whatever you want to ask us within reason, send them in and we will get them answered. Okay, thank you for the questions coming in, guys. Keep them coming. And the first one is from a fellow Ross Young. He says, question, is there any writing advice that you think people should ignore, or you feel you have to unlearn?
That's a good question. I think yes, is the answer. I think there's plenty
Yes.
of writing advice people should ignore. But I think it's really subjective because there's no right way to write a novel and no wrong way to write a novel. And I personally, somebody will say like, oh, keep a writing diary, and at the end of every day talk about like what went well with your writing and what didn't work. And I'm like, sod that, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, it's like homework.
I've been writing all day, I'm not writing some more. But I think but for some people that's really, really helpful. So I don't feel like I'm an authority to say what you should ignore and not. But anyone who tells you that semicolons are unpopular is wrong, and I think you should use more.
Okay. Chris, have you ever kept a writing diary?
No.
Oh, okay. Would you?
I don't know. Maybe. But like a really scribbly one. Like I wouldn't put loads of effort into it. It would literally be like quick notes. So yeah, maybe for that purpose. But I very much agree with Anna in terms of, that's way too much effort. Like just keep it in the fictional realm.
Definitely. No, I agree there. Okay, question from Halo. Hello to you, by the way. It's been a while since we've seen you. Welcome back. She says, did your prose voice change because of the Curtis program? And if so, in what way?
Oh, that's interesting. I think, yes, because I submitted a first draft of so I had about 60,000 words of a book called Tall Bones that I submitted early on in the course, and obviously not the whole 60,000 words, but the first few chapters of it. And I was like, oh, this is so good. I'm doing so well. I've gotten so much done. And everyone on the course was like, this is a bit of shit, mate. And I was like, oh, God. and they were right, though. It was very self-indulgent. It was very wishy-washy. There was no real, there was a plot, but it was very sort of buried under a lot of like long sad character moments, and it wasn't really going anywhere, and I think that really encouraged me to actually start reading the sort of books that I wanted to write something like. It encouraged me to think a lot more about pacing and keeping things taut and to think about the kind of writing that I was doing. So I definitely think that my prose changed.
That's a great question, a good answer. When you got your book became published, and before that happened, was there a process in where you were sent your work back and there were a lot of recommendations? How did you deal with that if that happened?
So the first time, like, I'm not ashamed to say that I did have a little cry, and
I mean, is that because I'm really considering this with my new book and want to send it off? I am terrified of that happening and that coming back. Was that because of the amount of effort you put into it prior to what came back?
I mean, this was with the Curtis Brown course. I think when I had feedback from my agent, like, we were really, with the Curtis Brown course, it was very much like, this is comments on your writing. And by the time I submitted something for an agent to look at, I do think I'd really matured as a writer, and I felt like I'd progressed a lot. And my agent's brilliant, and we were really in tune about the novel and what we wanted from it. So all of her feedback, I felt, was just, I was sort of like, yes, everything is, I completely agree. But the people at Curtis Brown were absolutely right to criticize my writing, but I think it was like, it was obviously very personal. The writing that I'd done was really informed by the experiences I'd had in the US, and I felt like this is really personal to me, and actually, like, it was important for me to learn that doesn't matter. Like, if the book is shit, then it's shit. Like, it doesn't matter how much you love it personally. You have to learn to take criticism about it, and you have to learn to make changes if you need them.
So when you said about reading books that you wanted to sort of write, what books were you sort of picking up at that point, and what were you hoping to gain from reading them? Was it like structurally you wanted to learn from them, or was it how they developed their characters? Like, what was the process there?
Yeah, I think it was kind of because before that, I hadn't actually really read a lot of crime beyond sort of like Agatha Christie, who I do love, and most of my sort of understanding of like crime fiction really came from TV, things like True Detective, and so I had quite different tastes in the sort of stuff that I like to read. So coming to start reading thrillers and crime fiction was really interesting and a real learning curve for me. It was a lot of stuff like Paula Hawkins and Jane Harper, and I really, really loved Celeste Ng's Everything I Never Told You, the way that she could combine that I think was the book that had the biggest effect on me, because I loved the way that she could combine this mystery about a dead girl with the way her family coped with it. And I thought, like, that's really what I want to write about, something that is both the story of a family drama and also a mystery that keeps you turning the pages.
Love that. He's muted himself and he's not aware.
There's another question coming in from Life, and she says this might be an odd question. It kind of links up to one of these staple questions that we didn't quite ask. But it says, do you know how many books you can see yourself writing in total? Which is a good question. And what we normally ask is, how do you see yourself? What does a successful career look like to you?
I would just like to be able to keep writing books at all. I would like to be in I hope I'll keep writing books until I'm shot in my work shed like Roald Dahl. And I think, I would just like to. A successful career for me would be anything where I'm allowed to keep doing that and have the means to keep doing that.
Fantastic. How many books? Life said, have you got an idea? Like, is there a limit,
that's I mean, I don't know. I've got ideas for maybe like another sort of 5, maybe, but hopefully I will outlive 5 books. That would be
it's
nice.
kind of funny when people say that they submitted a book and then suddenly they signed up for 3. And I mean, if that ever happened to me, I'd be like, oh, I didn't expect that to happen. I've got to think of something. I mean, is there that kind of pressure there? Do you feel that?
A little bit I mean, it's absolutely wonderful to get a 2-book deal. Was totally unexpected and was a huge dream, but it was kind of like I put I was 23 when I wrote Tall Bones, and I'd had 23 years to think about this book, and suddenly it was kind of like, okay, and do you also have another one, and can it be ready soon? And I was like, no.
It must be a scary process. Excellent. There's no more real questions coming at the moment, so we've got a couple of random ones we're going to throw at you just before we finish up, because we like to throw random questions at people.
Please do.
Pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Yes.
Straight up yes. Chris, don't be so disappointed. People like it. You've got to get over that fact now, and I believe it overwhelmingly has been yes. Okay.
Do you like pineapple on pizza?
I don't mind it. Yeah. Chris is offended.
Yeah, see, this was like a big sort of. We've been going now for like 5 seasons, and in season 2, I think it was like a big thing of Chris versus Chris, and we would score points for these questions in the past. So technically, that
everybody in the comments.
Yeah.
Oh,
Halo is
no.
on my side. Thank you, Halo.
I don't know. We've got plenty of these. I mean, you're from the UK, so you know there's chocolate and Dairy Milk or Galaxy.
So you know this chocolate?
Yes.
You have to be from the UK to know that chocolate exists.
Hang on. People have been on from the US or whatever, and they don't know these chocolates. So shut up.
They know what chocolate is, Chris. I'm pretty sure most people on the planet know what chocolate is.
If you guys from the US right now watching this, do you know what Galaxy and Dairy Milk is? Yes or no?
No, you didn't say that. You said, do you know what chocolate is? That was the thing.
Anyway.
Galaxy, by the way.
Galaxy, okay.
I tell you what, that was the toughest thing about living in the US. The chocolate's not good. I'm sorry,
there you
guys.
go. Thank you, Chris. They haven't got Dairy Milk or Galaxy. I don't know. They got weird. I'm not sure. I've never been there, so I couldn't tell you. Okay, so Star Wars or Star Trek?
Star Wars, but I wasn't a big fan of the recent ones. I'm an original trilogy girl. So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you wouldn't have seen. Have you seen them all?
I don't think I saw the most recent one, actually.
Okay, so you will have seen Darth Maul, right?
Oh yeah.
But you might not have seen Kylo Ren.
No, I did see him. I saw Force Awakens.
So, which is the better baddie? Is it Kylo Ren or Darth Maul?
Darth Maul doesn't really get to do anything. I feel he's a bit underutilized, you know. But that being said,
don't
he's got a
backtrack now.
better aesthetic going on. Like the look is good. The look is good.
Okay,
I feel like I knew people that looked like Kylo Ren at high school. So
Oh, right, okay.
Wow,
Interesting.
you went to a terrifying high school.
I did.
Goth was all over the rage. I mean, surely he was a goth in school, right? Kylo
Oh,
Ren.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Oh, I did have a question actually. So this is a two-part question. So obviously, as a writer, everything you write, you kind of, I don't know if you necessarily are doing it for a purpose, but obviously when you write books, you are leaving a legacy. So let's imagine for a second, Anna, that the only part of your legacy that people read in the future is one strip. So it's just one sentence. Okay. What sentence would you want to leave behind in terms of what would be your overall message that you would like to leave?
Oh my god! You can't throw this at people with no
Christmas,
warning.
Yeah.
Not something from the book necessarily. I assume.
No, this can be anything. This is literally the only thing somebody will read from you in the future.
Well,
Obviously, this is worst case scenario. Hopefully, this never happens and people read your books. Like this one and the other few that are coming along.
Let's let Anna think on that, Chris. What would your answer be?
Well, I actually had a really funny. I know it's like writing 101 that you don't go and read your like bad reviews. But I'm really bad at following that advice. And I did early on read through some of them, and I had a hilarious one that was saying like, I hated this book, but she's gay, so I'm gonna give her 3 stars. And I think that's what I'd want to be my legacy if I died.
Wow.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Yeah, I mean I can't beat that answer, to be honest. What could I say?
I know. Mine surely would be he tried, but and that's
Tried
it.
and failed.
Yeah. His heart was in the right place. I don't know.
Like it.
Have you got one, Chris?
And then my second. I'm not answering that question. My second part of the question was if you could write a letter to the teenage you and send that back. What sort of things would you put in that?
I'd tell her that she's gay.
FYI.
Not to make that the theme of the show, but I think, I think that would have helped her out a bit. And but I would tell her that she's going to be a novelist. I think she could have done with some good news in her teens.
Chris, you just said, how would you have done that? I mean, paper?
Yeah,
I
mean, like, how would you say that? Would it?
A note, how to write a note? I mean,
no, would it be like
I'd call
a really
her on
sort
her
of,
like Nokia brick phone and be like,
flip phone,
like it?
Interrupt the session playing Snake. I mean,
Imagine that you just sat there playing Snake, like little teenage you, and then call from the future. First thing, guess what?
What wisdom have you got of me? Really? Yeah. You can tell me anything about the world, right? I don't know.
It's like, so there's this deadly disease ravaging mankind. You're a homosexual. Goodbye.
When it's 2020, 2021, don't make any plans. Just write books in that time. Because, it's tough.
And there's going to be a toilet roll pandemic element as well. So stock up on that.
Yeah, and Bitcoin.
Definitely.
Anyway, right, Anna, we've got to wrap this up because we're hitting the 1 hour mark, and we can't thank you enough for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's good that Chris joined us, finally, after these technical issues at the start of the show. Guys that are watching this and listening back on the podcast or watching back on the YouTube, we thank you so much. You are making this show happen, and we can't thank you enough. So please go and check out Tallbones. Check out The Beresford by Will Carver, who sponsored the show. And Anna, please stay safe, keep writing, and keep being awesome.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was amazing.
Yeah, Anna, before you go, can you tell everyone where they can get a copy of this?
You can get copies in everywhere.
Get everywhere.
Anyway,
knock on your neighbour's door. Just knock on. Have you got Tallbones? Can I have it, please?
Including Roldar Shed and on board.
Yeah. Support your indie bookshops, I would say.
Yeah, definitely. Guys, join us on Friday. We got Adele Parks on the show. another incredible guest.
Nice.
So please see us there and look after yourselves. We'll see you very soon. Bye.